you down, it's not your fault. Don't worry, it'll be alright. Don't worry.
So, about half of you have said that you think that God has spoken to you. There's only about 5 or 6 people that rose their hands saying that they know for certain that God's spoken to them. Sometimes when we talk about God speaking to us, we don't really think about hearing His voice, right? I mean, when's the last time that we heard Father G speaking down to us? But He does it all the time, and so I'm going to ask you some questions just to think about. And this is some of the ways that God may have spoken to you. Has somebody ever stopped you to tell you what you should do in a situation? Have you ever stopped to think twice about something you're about to do? And have you ever witnessed something that changed your outlook on your life, maybe on something you're doing, or really anything? And these are some big questions that I have, but they all share something in common, and that's because God speaks through other people. Usually when we think of like God speaking to us, we think of the Old Testament, when God directly spoke to Abraham, for example, and Moses, and those people. But God still talks to us today. We're just not listening for it. So I'll ask again, are you listening? We're not listening for it. When you are questioning something, right, and you have people maybe come and speak to you, you see that as people speaking to you, but God has put them in your way many times because He wants to speak to us directly. Okay, Colin, but how do we know that it's God? The answer is experience. When you have a relationship with God, you can tell when God's speaking to you. You know when He wants you to feel something, when He wants you to act a certain way, and when what you're doing is wrong. When you form that relationship, you just kind of know. And that's the best way I can put it. The closer you become to God, the more you can see His influence in your life, and you realize that. If you haven't had a great relationship with God, how do you know if God's speaking to you? And this is a good question because it's hard to tell and sort through everything because sometimes you're uncertain. So we can know this a couple ways. Number one, as long as it doesn't contradict the Bible and it goes along with what God says in here, then we know it's true. And I'm going to have an example of this in a moment. But that's how we know. We have to rely on that. Most of the times we keep ourselves from hearing Him because we aren't truly listening. You have to be listening. You have to want God to speak to you. Sometimes when we ask through prayer for answers to things, we expect one answer, and if He doesn't answer yes, we don't think He's answering us. Or if He doesn't give us what we want, we don't think He's answering us or talking to us or guiding us. But that's not true. Sometimes God remains silent because He wants us to use our conscience and our brain. All right, God's blessed us with the ability to feel feelings, to search within ourselves, and to think things out logically. If God didn't want us to use these tools, He wouldn't have given them to us. So sometimes when you're confronted with a challenge, you really have to search within yourself if you don't feel like God is speaking to you. Many of the times, if you stay quiet, though, you will hear. And
I'm just going to jump right in here and explain a little story. At the end of last school year, I knew that my senior year was approaching, so I started planning into the future as to what college I'm going to. And through online research, I found Bethel University, and that's located in St. Paul, Minnesota. And it was a perfect fit for me. It's a Christian university. They had my major. The pre-med program is excellent. I really fell in love with it. But whenever I started to explain my interests in this school to other people, they were like, wow, it's so far away, or it's so expensive, or no, maybe you should just look at schools closer. But I was always drawn to that school in particular for some reason. So I was led to apply there, and I was accepted. I was super happy about this, but then I was like, oh no, now I have to go visit the school that's halfway across the US. How am I going to be able to go? But then I was invited to go there for free, and Bethel was able to provide me with transportation and a place to stay and food there. And I really feel like that was just God being like, you think that you can't do this, or that these possibilities are totally out of your reach, but there's so many opportunities out there for you. So I think obedience is a huge part of having a relationship with God when you hear Him. And I think my next step is just to be committed to Bethel and just continue to listen to him and just allow him to take full control of my life even more.
With fading lights, trying to guide us through the night, but you're the one thing, and that'll carry us.